millions of people. That was at stake, a reputational matter.
A piece of a lot of this, it seems insane to me, is we are now years after, whether man-made or not, one of the worst disasters in human history. And we are genuinely less prepared for the next one than the last one.
It's not one of the worst disasters in human history. I could name 100 worse ones.
Fair enough,
Okay.
but it was bad. I didn't enjoy it.
Bill Maher had Ezra Klein on real time and completely shut him down. Ezra tried pushing his usual woke takes, but Bill wasn't having it. He called him out right on air. It's great seeing Maher's shift toward common sense and pushing back against the woke crowd. Let's get into the clip where Bill absolutely destroys Ezra live.
All right, here we are with the host of the Ezra Klein Show podcast and the co-author of the book Abundance, Ezra Klein. And he writes the weekly Dish newsletter and hosts the podcast, The Dishcast with Andrew Sullivan. Andrew Sullivan. Okay, here are the questions. Andrew, what do you think of news that British intelligence knew COVID was a lab leak in 2020 and officially ignored their report?
Not just knew, aided a 95% certainty. Same with the German intelligence service. March 2020. There's a new book out called COVID's Wake. I was reading it this last couple of weeks, and the core paper that killed off any idea that this was a lab leak in China, the proximal origin paper, which was produced with Fauci and Collins of the NIH and NIAID helping it along, was a lie, a conscious lie. That the people who looked at it, we now have their emails, are saying in the very first days of looking at the virus, this looks very man-made to us. This is so friggin' obvious this is man-made.
Well,
so friggin' obvious, one of them said. And then they wrote the report saying there is no evidence that this was made in a lab. The question is why? Why would they lie to us about that? And they did.
Well, I can give you one answer, the New York Times. The New York Times said any questioning of this being from a lab was racist, which always struck me as odd because it seems much more racist to go, wow, these people are eating bats.
I know.
I mean, it's just one example, but a good example of why people lost faith in the left, because they do stupid things like that. Not to be an I told you so, but from the very beginning, I was saying this shouldn't even be political, but it's at least a 50-50 it came from the lab, and that in 50 years, I can't imagine people going, wait, you mean in 2020, there was this thing that escaped from a lab in Wuhan, that started in Wuhan, and there was a lab in Wuhan that was studying it? And they didn't think that was connected? And they blamed it on bats? Really? It just doesn't make any sense.
It makes a little bit more sense.
You can gaslight people so easily.
Yes. I don't think the Democrats are so much as fault as scientists who went along with this, knowing better. It's their integrity I'm concerned about, to actually lie and distort what they could see with their own eyes because they were afraid of politics. The other question is this. This lab was a gain of function lab. That means they were creating viruses,
right,
dangerous viruses, to figure out how to protect you from them. This gain of function research was always dangerous. Everyone knew it was dangerous. Long time ago, you go back to 2015, you will find a big meeting in London where they say there's one lab in the world most likely to have a problem with this, Wuhan. Do you know who was the biggest supporter of gain of function research for the last 30 years? Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci. Yeah. Now, remember that name. There's a reason he was given a pardon back to 2014. There is something very wrong going on here.
You know? Yeah, I also don't think he did it for nefarious reasons. There's an argument to be made. There's an actual intellectual debate to be had. Should gain of function research be done? We want to get ahead of viruses. The other answer is, the other response would be, it's too dangerous. Because if it gets out, it's going to be bad. And that's what happened. But I don't think he's an evil guy, like some people do, who was trying to get rich off this.
No.
Okay, he just made the wrong call.
No, he knew from the get-go that the Wuhan lab had security levels that were the average of a dentist's office. They should have been at the highest level imaginable. He knew that. Not only that,
he made the wrong call.
The NIH and NIAID had helped fund it.
Right. No.
So you don't want to go down in history as the person who helped develop the virus that killed millions of people. You want to go down as the one who saved millions of people. That was at stake, a reputational matter.
A piece of a lot of this, it seems insane to me, is we are now years after, whether man-made or not, one of the worst disasters in human history. And we are genuinely less prepared for the next one than the last one.
It's not one of the worst disasters in human history. I could name 100 worse ones.
Fair enough,
Okay.
but it was bad. I didn't enjoy it.
I mean, let's not be purple.
It was a
about
bad pandemic. Let's
Could
put it
have
that
been
way.
a lot worse.
As pandemics go,
Genuinely not my point on this.
Okay, all
I'm happy to see that the Holocaust was worse than the pandemic.
Okay.
Like, it's fine. But in other things, other countries, in this country, right? After something terrible happens, you often have these big bipartisan commissions that come up with a bunch of recommendations and try to create preparedness for next time. I sort of agree with you that we've gone way too far on airport security for too long, but we did a lot on things like biosecurity that made sense and actually did make us safer.
Yeah.
And we have anti-learned lessons, right? On the one hand, we had amazing success with things like Operation Warp Speed, and now you got RFK Jr. running HHS. On the other hand, a bunch of huge mistakes were made on things like lockdowns, and we're just arguing about them. We haven't put out, say, a new best practices, right? Gain of function research, which y'all were just talking about, it is just an argument. It's something I try to keep paying attention to, and they haven't come out with strong new guidelines. Bird flu, everybody I read who knows what they're talking about says we are in a terrible position on bird flu if it actually begins to mutate and make the jump. We just have never figured out a way to find a policy equilibrium here, as opposed to sort of keep rehaving the argument. The arguments are important.
because everything gets politicized.
But everything
That's
gets
why.
politicized.
But
We don't have the
it shouldn't
capacity to
even
come
be-
to agreements. It's really
Yeah, we used
bad
to
that
not-
we are this unprepared now.
I completely get where Andrew Sullivan's coming from here. You can tell he's not angry just to argue, he's frustrated because people still can't admit how politics twisted the truth during that time. I actually agree with him when he says fear of politics made people lie. That's a powerful statement. And Bill trying to keep it neutral makes sense too, but sometimes the truth needs that emotional punch Andrew brought.
But that's why the integrity of science
I
is
agree
so
with-
important.
I agree with you on
If
this.
we
Yeah.
don't trust the scientists, who on earth are we going to trust? And I really...
And that
I
means
really
all
want
the-
to trust them. I want to trust them. I trusted Fauci during AIDS. I'm really upset that I don't think I can trust him on this. We need to have empirical, good, objective search for truth.
Right, you
and we
can't
have to all
you
agree
can't
on it.
What I hated was when he said, "I am the science." That is so not what science is. You're right. We need to trust the science, which means we needed to hear all of the scientists and not shut out the people who weren't on the page. That's what bothered me about this. Okay. Should we expect to learn anything revelatory from the JFK files just released? Well, what do you mean expect? We saw them and we didn't. Is it time to move on from this conspiracy theory? Well, I mean, do you think it's a conspiracy theory? I mean, plainly, there was not a single gunman, right? We all agree on that, no? I mean, that...
I have
you believe
such weak opinions on this.
I decided not to have an opinion on this a long time ago.
made
But
such an
you
effort
have
to
seen-
not.
But the magic bullet, there could not have been a bullet that went through a guy, went around him, came back, went through the other guy, got lunch at the diner, came back, shot him in the back of the head. I mean, it's just, come on. Everybody heard a shot from the grassy knoll. I mean,
I don't think we care. I mean, honestly, I'm done with it. I mean, it's. I don't.
Right, I don't think we'll ever know for sure,
No,
because this
mysteries are
was the
great.
final news dump, and if they don't know now, they don't know. But the idea that the CIA is going to now suddenly go, you're right, we had something to do with it. If they did, I'm not saying they did, but a lot of people wanted them dead.
The idea that in the files somewhere, in all of these files that they were going to release, and there's going to be this one page that says, "Oh, we actually knew the whole time."
Right.
It was always a little fanciful.
Yeah.
That's why it's a little cruel to actually give them everything, right? Because they could always hope that some mystery was there.
Well, what was cruel is to promote it like it's going to be great, and then it's Al Capone's fault.
The Epstein files came out all redacted.
What?
The redacted Epstein files are the ones I've always been more interested in.
Was a lot redacted from the Epstein
There's a
files?
lot redacted in the Epstein files.
And what do you think?
I mean, I didn't go through and read them. I was seeing other people who cared more about this than I did talk about this on social media. But so long as we're talking about conspiracies, I've always thought that one's pretty weird. And the Trump administration came in with this big show of releasing the files, and then a bunch is blacked out.
Right.
And they made that one look yet stranger.
Because Trump knew him, you think?
I'm not making any suppositions on this. I'm just saying that when you come and you make such a big show of declassification and you're going to tell everybody everything, then it comes out and you don't, it's a little weird.
Right. Well, I always say whenever there's a guy with a lot of money and you don't quite know how he got it, he's probably some kind of a pimp. I've seen this before. I mean, that was Epstein's magic power. It's like rich guys want to get laid. And sometimes it's like, it's hard because they're famous or they have a wife or, you know. So, I mean, but really, it's like, honey, I'm just going to have dinner at Epstein's house. He's a big philanthropist. Yeah, not on the 3rd floor, he wasn't. The U.S. ranked 24th in the world's happiness index, behind much poorer countries like Lithuania and Costa Rica. Why are Americans so happy? Well, go ahead. Take a shot at it.
I mean, you got an outside perspective. Why aren't we happier?
I find the whole idea of happiness a little silly. I mean, happiness is not.
I agree. And how do you measure it?
I know it's bullshit. These are polls they do of people that create news stories and fill in for bad news days. I mean, that's what this is.
I think so. I mean,
I don't want to live in Finland.
This whole part shows why I love this panel. It's like comedy meets reality. When they're joking about the government and those files, it's funny, but it also hits a nerve. Bill's sarcasm feels more like truth disguised as humor. That line about the CIA confessing, that's exactly the kind of cynicism people relate to. It's humor that says what everyone's secretly thinking.
Right.
It's fucking dark and cold now. You can't see it half the year. It's freezing.
Yeah, right. I know. It's so true.
They're all blissfully happy, but fine, all right, go ahead. Knock yourselves out.
I think they're just fucking with us when they take the poll. You're right, it's dark, like pitch black for like 2 months of the year. I mean, every meal is fish.
I've watched all those Netflix seasons as well.
I mean, I've been in the Nordic countries, you know, like, I mean, you think, oh, it's going to be the Swedish bikini team, and, you know, if you're there on a Tuesday, it looks like Cleveland. I swear to God. I mean, they're lovely cities, but I was in Oslo on a Tuesday, and it was just, they weren't even blonde. They weren't even blonde, most of the people. I wanted my money back. It was very disappointing. Where are all the blondes? Okay. Do the controversies surrounding Disney's Snow White remake show that we are still in the thick of the culture wars? Oh, have we been following the Snow White?
Actually, the first time hearing of this.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good for you.
Well, the two stars are Gal Gadot,
happy for you.
Who she was in the Israeli Defense Forces. She's Israeli, and then Rachel Zegler plays Snow White. I think Gal plays the. I was not a child, so I don't follow them. I don't know fairy tales. I never read comic books. But something is this the one with the poison apple and the whatever it is?
Yes, the witch.
Okay, so they're in, and Rachel Zegler, being 23 or whatever she is, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantata is the only global solution. So the two stars hate each other, and then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive. You'd think the most progressive thing would be get people jobs, and dwarfs want to work.
It's like an honest golden employment opportunity for dwarves.
There's not that many scripts that come down the pike.
No, only 7 of them.
That has, and there's 7 dwarf jobs here. But because I think it was Peter Dinklage said this is, this is not right. This is demeaning. And they were like, what? We just want to work. We're dwarves. So, ho, ho, ho. Yeah. Anyway, that's the... All right. Does SpaceX rescuing the astronauts mean that we will privatize space travel? Didn't we already?
I thought we did, yeah.
What the fuck question is that? This guy's really out of it. Do you agree with Bernie Sanders that progressives should shed the Democratic label and run as independents instead? Is that what he's saying now? Should they aim to be angry moderates?
I think it would be good not for all Democrats to shed the label of Democrats, but I think more people should run as independents in more places. Dan Osborne in Nebraska, that was a great race. And it makes sense. And I mean, one of the ways that we've destroyed party competition in this country is that in a bunch of states, they either find the right so repugnant, I think at the moment for me understandably, or the left so repugnant, there actually is no competition. So having people run as independents and be able to make an argument outside of the party label, it makes sense. It would be good if I would like to see, I think a lot of political donors are functionally counterproductive. I think creating the infrastructure for independent competition in states that are otherwise one-party control would actually be a great use of political philanthropy.
Okay.
The thing I like,
Yeah, go ahead.
and we're just about to get it in D.C., is ranked choice voting. 1, 2, 3. You actually show people that you don't like this
Right.
nutter, but you'd rather this nutter than that one. And so you give them a little priority, and as the candidates fall out when they get they then contribute their vote to the next one. So you get a consensus candidate.
Is that a
And
jungle?
that's how we got Eric Adams in New York, and it's turned
Well,
out
he's-
great.
Well, yeah.
Can't blame it on ranked choice voting.
Is that a
Save
jungle
me from
primary?
everything.
Is that what they call a jungle?
No, jungle primary is different. California's jungle primary, right?
What does that mean?
Jungle primary, I think, is that you have a bunch of people running, and the top two vote getters, no matter what party they are, then have a runoff. So that's how you get a general election in California. We have two Democrats running against each other. Ranked choice is that the general election, you can have a lot of different candidates going, or in a primary, you can have a lot of different candidates, and you're ranking through them. So if you have people who are consensus, like if everybody has kind of the same second choice, but people are split between like 3 more extreme first choices,
Right.
you might get that second consensus candidate as the winner. For the Eric Adams joke, ranked choice voting is a good idea. We should do it.
Okay, Eric. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
They're talking about happiness indexes 1 second and then boom, Snow White controversies. And Andrew Sullivan? He's on fire. The Nordic jokes, the where are all the blondes line, he's cracking everyone up. But then it flips again. Suddenly, it's about politics and how progressives keep tripping over themselves. Andrew nails it when he says they mean well but somehow make things worse. Then Ezra's last point about independence? Actually a solid take, you can feel the crowd vibe with it. That's why people love Bill's panel, it's funny, tense, and just brutally real.